Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Sound Bites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, Dragon of the Southern Tier. I am happy to join you today as we address an unusual subject for this channel. We're going to talk about entertainment and entertainers, and more specifically, activist athletes, because it's become a very big issue in America, activism in our entertainment. But before we get to that, we do want to mention that if this is the first time that you are seeing our channel, we welcome you and thank you for joining us. We want you to know that we do long-form political commentary on this channel. And every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we reach out to you on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, DLive, essentially all of the social media that the internet overlords will allow to hear your voice in your tweets, your chats, even your phone calls from anywhere in the globe to speak to us about the issues that affect us all. It is an expression of the First Amendment of free speech, an inalienable right of everyone in the globe to speak and to share your thoughts with us about everything that is affecting us today. We hope to see you every Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for your expression of your inalienable rights, and we look forward to seeing you next Sunday. With that said, the issue for today is talking about the activist athletes, a term and a concept that is growing in America and around the world to an extent. Now, before we get started, we do have to address a very simple fact. The activist athlete is not a new thing. It has existed going back in time, even into the 1800s, and not just in America, but around the world. We have seen this many times. But there is a big difference that we must acknowledge and be clear about. In the 1800s, in the early 1900s, there was no TV. In fact, in certain points, there was no radio. Even newspapers could often take days to convey events and issues that are happening in the world. And now today, we have the opportunity where entertainers and activists can go onto social media and instantaneously be able to reach others. We have our entertainers and individuals of significance who can call press conferences at the drop of a hat, like the Kardashians, like LeBron James, like Colin Kaepernick, like Beyonce, and instantly have a drove of reporters covering every aspect of anything that they have to say to millions around the world. In fact, tens of millions. So we have a very different world, and the reach and the need of activism in our entertainment is no longer the same as in the 1800s or the early 1900s. It's just not equivalent. So with that understood, what are we seeing in modern athletic activism and entertainment activism? Well, let's take a look at this. And we want to start with 2016. Now, in 2016, in a New York Times opinion page, Betty Burden, who is a high school junior at the time in Connecticut, had this to say. And you will be able to see the links to every article we're speaking about in the description so that you can read it for yourself to make sure that we have full context. She says in part, "Trophies for all convey an inaccurate and potentially dangerous life message for children. We are all winners. This message is repeated at the end of each sports season, year after year, and is only reinforced by the collection of trophies that continues to pile up. We begin to expect awards and praise for just showing up to class, practice, after-school jobs, leaving us woefully unprepared for reality. Outside the protected bubble of childhood, not everyone is a winner. Showing up to work, attending class, completing homework, and trying my best at sports practice are expected of me, not worthy of award. These are the foundations of a long path to potential success, a success that is not guaranteed no matter how much effort I put into it." We believe that that is a prescient statement from a woman in high school in the United States. There is no guarantee of success in a free society because while the United States government is founded on the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, it is founded on the principle of the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. It is not the guarantee of these things. Because truly, if you have freedom, there cannot be a guarantee of success, even though some want that. In fact, the only time that you have such guarantees is when you are in an authoritarian and tyrannical government, similar to what we see in socialism and communism around the world. There are guarantees on the success you will get, and that success is limited by the leadership. But in the United States, we have many who are saying, well, participation is in itself something worthy of praise. That if you run into any difficulties in life, after being taught that you should be praised for just being present, well, then we have to give them safe spaces. We must create new rules like critical race theory. We must have gender and identity politics and intersectionality to protect people when they run into the fact that reality is not some kind of award ceremony. In fact, what we see is that the chickens are coming home to roost. And in that we mean that the consequences of doing wrong always catch up to the wrongdoer, that one's previous actions will eventually have consequences or cause problems for oneself. In fact, we are seeing that in the United States at this time. It was back in July 7th of 2019, literally exactly 2 years ago to this day, when we were speaking about Colin Kaepernick, an individual that many of our youth today consider to be the first in being an activist athlete, which isn't correct. But they look at him and his actions in both the fields and with Nike, a company that regularly uses slave labor to make immense profit, and their attack on Betsy Ross. And at the time, we had this to say about that. 2019, we're talking about the millennials. They have no concept. I, born in 1968, have no concept of the kind of oppression and racism that Jesse Owens had to go through, that Frederick Douglass in 1852 had to go through. And to say that today there is so much oppression, so much horror. Let's think about this for a second. I mean, really, folks, let's talk about this. Colin Kaepernick, a multi-millionaire who doesn't do anything anymore. He doesn't play football. He was getting, $14 million to play a game. And he made his deals with Nike, giving him millions more. He's making as much as businesses make individually. Okay, and he's out there, he's saying that there's so much oppression that people of color are oppressed in America. Well, let me guess, because Jesse Owens didn't make millions. Frederick Douglass didn't make millions, even if you were to adjust the money from 1852 to today. No, these weren't rich people. They were working class. You know what? Today, we have Cory Booker, we have Senator Kamala Harris. They're both senators. They're both people of color. Kamala Harris happens to be a woman, and they're running for president. This is after the fact that we had Barack Obama, who's black, was president for 8 years. He won re-election. We're so oppressed. We've had Herman Cain and we've had Dr. Ben Carson run for president. We have how many members of Congress that happen to be black or Hispanic or both, and women? How many? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? In 1936, that was not even possible. And yet Colin Kaepernick and Nike want us to think that today you are oppressed and that a flag that celebrates a nation that has given us the opportunity to have free speech and to grow and to make millions playing a game, and not even playing the game, just millions for being a person of interest in the nation. And you're going to tell me that's oppression? Seriously, is that oppression? Think about it. Is that oppression where individuals who are claiming the title of oppression, who are using activism to go into our sports to disrupt our daily lives, our escape from the reality of every day, they're telling us, well, it's all unfair and that they and those they represent should have more. You have Patrisse Cullors, the leader of the BLM organization, who's buying 5 homes, 5, in neighborhoods that are not black or low income. In fact, she's isolated herself from that, having gained millions of dollars from individuals who believe in her her politics of oppression. We have individuals like Jay-Z, Beyonce. We have individuals like LeBron James. We have individuals like Colin Kaepernick, and Megan Rapinoe, who have made millions off of the idea that they are the best, and because our nation can afford to indulge them in their entertainment, and yet they are oppressed. At a time where we see that our Congress is made up of 13% blacks, 23% of minorities, including women, and yet there is oppression. And yet we see that we have individuals at the pinnacle of their athleticism that decide that they need to make political statements, whether or not anyone else cares, in direct, abject conflict with what got them to be at the pinnacle of their sports and athleticism. In fact, we covered that in July 9th of 2019, where we had the U.S. women's soccer in a video that is basically removed right now from Google and YouTube. It's almost unsearchable, where we see there's the video. U.S. women's team. And I'm going to stop it right here. So the first thing you'll see, as we covered at the time, they are dragging the United States flag. They later, and on the video, and you can see this for yourself, they drag the flag. They stomp on the flag. They disrespect the United States flag, an action that no other country's team would ever even dare to consider, because they appreciate that their nation has given them the opportunity to present themselves and their athleticism on an international stage. But in the United States, individuals like Megan Rapinoe and the U.S. women's soccer team decide that that's not good enough, that they need more. Besides the millions that they make, besides the international acclaim that they receive, even more than the fame they have received on social media and the news media, that's not enough, because you haven't submitted to their will yet. You haven't given them everything. And that's kind of insulting and upsetting. In fact, back on July 12th, when the U.S. women's soccer team was being lauded for their success on an international stage, Megan Rapinoe, as you can see here in the video, she shows absolute disdain for the American flag and the American people that gave her the opportunity to be on the stage, that actually give her the money to be able to live a life that almost no one in the world could possibly live. Only in America is this capable, where an individual, by the pure effort of their efforts, can be able to be raised up so high. And Ms. Rapinoe says at the time that she will probably never put her hand over her heart, that she will probably never sing the national anthem again because it's not good enough. That the millions that she is making, the adulation of millions around the world, is not enough. She demands more from you because she is an activist athlete. And the athletics is not about, her expression of athletics is not enough. It's about politics. It's about you submitting to her will, which is in abject opposition to freedom to disagree, to have a different opinion, to not want to support someone who would destroy and disrespect the very nation that propped her up. And without the support of the United States, Megan Rapinoe would not exist. Colin Kaepernick would not exist. It's not possible. In fact, they have led to, and we saw at the same time, this was August 12th of 2019, where a woman who we now hear again, Gwen Berry, raised her fist at the Pan Am Games, that she was upset that even though she was on an international stage representing the United States, a nation that provided her with more freedom and more opportunity than anywhere else in the world, she decided she needed to make a protest. Somebody has to talk about the things that are too uncomfortable to talk about. Somebody has to stand for all the injustices that are going on in America, and the president that she, Gwen Berry, felt made it worse. Now, you have to think about that for a second. Gwen Berry is actively saying, well, she's upset, that she disagrees, that America is not free enough. Not free enough as Kamala Harris ran for president, as Cory Booker, a senator, ran for president, even though President Obama had not only run, but won re-election as a president, where we have seen the growth of businesses and individuals, and we've seen entertainment expand in a way that never existed on the face of the earth. And she's taking her moment of success, of her dedication, to say it's not fair. It's not fair enough. She wants to be lauded because she's participating, and her participation must include her politics. And if it doesn't happen, well, it's just not fair. It's not what she wants. It's not selfish enough. And this is something that we've heard from many of these individuals as they go around espousing their political beliefs at a time where Americans are trying to tune in to enjoy their time off of the world and escape from reality. That's what entertainment is and what it is for. In fact, LeBron James, another multi-millionaire, only possible in the United States for playing a game, LeBron James missed an opportunity with his comments about China coming from the Undefeated, and this was in October 16th of 2019. The NBA star used a lot of words to say nothing. And in that, I want you to understand that LeBron James decided to stand up for China, the Chinese government, communist government, that according to the Undefeated, they state, China's treatment of its own people, which according to Human Rights Watch includes, quote, arbitrary detention, imprisonment, and enforced disappearance, persecution of religious communities, censorship of the media and public speech, and the mass detention and torture of Turkic Muslims. This is what the activists are promoting. This is what they're looking for. They want more socialism, a failed concept that has failed everywhere in the world that it has ever existed. Look at Russia, look at China, North Korea, look at Venezuela. There is no success story in socialism in the world. And every time that we see misrepresentation, like Bernie Sanders saying, well, the Nordic countries, they are socialist and they're successful, except the Nordic countries have all stated over and over again, they're not socialists, that they don't use socialism. So there's always this misrepresentation, and this is about a political gain. These are individuals who are using their politics, their opportunities to be able to try and dissent and to embarrass people. Now, we want to make sure people understand that when LeBron James is talking about China and supporting China, he's supporting the $500 million market for the NBA. He's talking about Nike, which uses China as its partner for a $1 billion lifetime contract. This is about supporting his selfish lifestyle, his means of excess that the average American citizen can never attain. And this isn't unique to just LeBron James. It's not unique to the NBA. In fact, we see many of these activist athletes that are actually promoting their own selfish gains, trying to change a system to meet their needs as they prop up their exclusive lifestyles. We'll go to in March 15th of 2021. What happened? Well, we found out that the U.S. women's team lost their lawsuit where they were demanding more pay. They didn't get enough money. They wanted to get paid more. They wanted to get paid like the men's team. Even though, as judges looked this over, including Judge Gary Klausner of the Federal District Court of Los Angeles, as he pointed out that the women's team actually earned more, quote, on both a cumulative and an average per game basis than the men's team. They wanted more money and they wanted more opportunity than they were already getting, and they were already exceeding the far more wealthy and far more successful men's team, because it's never enough. The activism is more important. They need to be lauded. They need to be put on a pinnacle because they showed up, even though they don't have the success. And even when they are lauded, it is not enough. That is the crux of these activist athletes. It's never enough. Give them praise and give them more praise for their politics. Follow their politics. And if you oppose that, well, you must be a sexist. You must be a racist. You must be some kind of anti-communist, anti-socialist. And that, of course, is evil and wrong. And we see this being said over and over again. And if you disagree with them, well, there is a problem with you. If you do your job, if you protect other Americans, well, then you're the victim. You're the bad guy. As we see from LeBron James in this deleted tweet, because he was so confident, he was so sure that he was right, that he demanded, LeBron James, an entertainer, demanded that someone attack and physically harm or otherwise harm a police officer that had just saved a black woman's life. And if you're unfamiliar with this, just look at what happened to Ma'Khia Bryant, and we have covered that as well on this program. And LeBron James decided to use his activism as an athlete to reach out and on social media to demand that this man be punished, at the same time that he is more than willing to allow China, a nation which has arbitrary detention, imprisonment, and enforced disappearance, persecution of religious communities, censorship of media and public speech, and mass detention and torture of Islamist Muslims. That's what he wants to promote. And if you don't do it, well, you're next. That's not about freedom. He's not promoting freedom. China is hardly anything like freedom. And all of this has been roost. These are the chickens coming back to roost when we have given them participation trophies, when we have lauded them for just being there, when we have given them safe spaces whenever anyone challenges anything they have to say, when we have labeled all of the critics as ists and phobes, when we try and promote this ideal that is selfish in nature and destructive to the very core of what allowed these very exclusive individuals to be able to rise up. And this isn't new, and it's continuing. We see this going on at this moment, not just with Gwen Berry, who we will get to in a second, but also with the U.S. women's soccer team. As we saw on July 5th, just 2 days ago, a day after the July 4th, a celebration of the United States and the freedoms that it provides, and a nation that has the most people, millions of people every year trying to get into it legally and illegally, including the 600,000 people in the last 4 months that have tried to enter the United States illegally through our southern border. It is that great a nation. And after we celebrated our nation, the U.S. women's soccer team went out and they turned their backs on a 98-year-old World War II veteran as he played the national anthem.
98-year-old
Did you see that? I want you to see that again. Let's go back. What are they doing? What are these women doing? Why are they so opposed to what everyone else is doing? Not only do they not have their hands over their hearts, they also are turned away from the rest of their team. They're looking off into distance. Now, this is a big deal. This is a disrespect, a direct disrespect. Now, I do want to say that the U.S. soccer communications team said that, no, this is not true. No one turned their back on the World War II veteran Pete during tonight's anthem. They were simply looking at an entirely different flag than the rest of their team. Let me ask you something. When you have watched international sports, have you ever noticed that when everyone faces a flag, no one turns away from that flag? The team acts in unison. In fact, that is why they are a team. They're not a bunch of individuals doing whatever they want. The entire team takes action together. It's called teamwork. And when individuals separate themselves from that team, they stand out as individuals. And we notice that. And we say, why is that the fact? When Colin Kaepernick and members of the NFL decided to kneel while others stood, we noticed that. It was an individual statement. It was an expression of their politics and their activism in the most inappropriate and worst time. It was an action of disrespect against the United States. And we've seen this over and over again. And we're seeing that with the women's team. Now, there were many people who pointed this out. As we saw, Richard Grinnell, who is a cancer survivor and a blue check on Twitter, and he states, number 11, number 2, turned away from the U.S. flag and the 98, he incorrectly said 92, 98-year-old World War II harmonica-playing veteran. And here we see that image very, very clearly. And we also see that this isn't new. Those very same players have embarrassed America back in November 29th of 2020. So we shouldn't be surprised that they are embarrassing America again right at this moment. As mentioned by Amy Meek, as she caught this image, the national embarrassment. The U.S. women's soccer team spit on America and our national anthem while in Europe. Even Europeans laughed at them wearing the communist Black Lives Matters, and it is communist because the organization was created by Patrisse Cullors and she is a self-avowed communist, and that the organization was created to promote socialist and communist ideals. So wearing the communist Black Lives Matters uniform made by Nike, a company riddled with claims of sexual harassment and also sexual assaults, as well as child labor abuses. And what do we see in this video? Do you notice? We're going to see individuals, including number 11 and number 2, as well as other members, who kneel in 2020, and they kneel and they turn away in 2021. That is just a fact. These are the same people who we see here. And when we look at this from a more wide image, what do we see? Here's the Mexican national team showing respect to the United States. Here are the officials showing respect to the United States. Here are the players showing respect and turning away. What's this confusion? What's the team trying to say? They're looking at a flag and they're not looking at a flag. They're paying respect to our veteran and they're paying disrespect to our veteran. This is about disrespect. But should we be surprised? Should we be surprised at all that this is happening when we have seen that the U.S. women's team is made up of individuals who in the past and currently are disrespecting America just like they did in 2019 as they dragged the flag and dropped it on the ground and they decided that they wanted to step on that flag because it's about them. Because they're more concerned about their selfish needs and their activism. And remember I had mentioned Gwen Berry before? Yes, Gwen Berry from 2021, who is asked about protesting as she protested the United States, the anthem and the flag, and decided that she needed to protest and promote her activism, that she is an activist. Just as she had done in the past, as we had shown you previously in the Pan Am Games, when she decided she needed to protest because she felt her issues that she wanted to promote weren't being spoken about enough. Mind you, she could have had a press conference. She's being promoted by the news media. She's being covered. She can go out and have a conversation if she wishes to. The media would be happy to cover her. Social media absolutely is covering her. But instead of being able to privately and still publicly make her statements, no, she had to disrespect the very nation that gave her the opportunity to be in third place. Third place. But an opportunity she would have never had otherwise. And we have individuals like we see with Chelsea Wolfe, an individual who is an alternate in the Olympics for the United States in BMX freestyle. Chelsea Wolfe, who says that she wants to burn the U.S. flag. She wants to disrespect the flag, much like her friend Gwen Berry, who says that she wants to see if she's going to protest. She wants to protest at the Olympics, which is expressly disavowed. The Japanese will not allow it to happen. But we see that Wolfe, her goal is to win the Olympics so she can burn a U.S. flag on the podium. Not to go out and say she wants to win for America. She wants to be the example for others to be able to follow. No, that's not important. You don't want to be an example. You want to destroy the very nation that gave you the opportunity to be able to do what you are doing right now and has paid you to do that. This is upsetting, but it is not surprising because our chickens are coming home to roost. We have watched the United States suffer because of this. We have autonomous zones throughout our nation. We have riots that have destroyed entire neighborhoods of the most poor and of minorities, setting them back decades. We have these autonomous zones that violate every single law at the local, state, and federal level, and they are excused. It's okay. It is allowed because certain political parties, the socialists, the progressives, think it advances their agenda, and that's all right. No matter the violence, we have news media like CNN and MSNBC that will watch and show us a live arson attack and tell us that's peaceful, that's normal, because the activism is more important. And that activism has to take place not just in our news, but it has to take place in our entertainment. Look at this, what was it, Ms. Marvel from Hollywood, from Marvel, where we were told, well, this is a woman's movie. This isn't about men. This is about activism. You know, when we look at all this activism, I keep coming back to a simple thought. No, it's our chickens coming home to roost. It is this destruction of the very ideals of America. It is the destruction of the pursuit of happiness. It is the destruction of the pursuit of life and liberty. Because they are advocating, like LeBron James, a removal of freedom. You don't have a choice about their activism. You don't have a choice about what they're trying to promote. You must submit. And if you do not, you're an ist and a phobe, and you must be punished. That scares me, because that is not only racist, not only sexist, not only is it socialist and communist, it's destructive. Not only self-destructive, but destructive to the entire nation, because they are standing there as symbols of violence. They are standing there as symbols promoting destruction. They are there as symbols destroying freedom. They, in fact, are trying to remove the ability of anyone else to be able to do what they have done, especially because they are afraid someone may step up and not say the same thing they are saying, not giving them lauding them and applauding them for trying to destroy freedom. But maybe you think I'm wrong. Maybe you think these are heroes. Maybe you think they are symbols of America, that this is what America should be. And if you do, we want to hear your comment. We want to hear your reasoning, how this has been beneficial to America, how this is helping to promote and unite America, as Joe Biden has said it will. And yet we do not see that. Please, we and the world would like to know, how can you show us how this is unifying, how this is beneficial, how this increases freedom? Because as we have watched these activist athletes go about their mission of destruction, America has become more divided and less prosperous. Please, we would like to hear your comments on that. But if you found this to be interesting, informative, please like it and share. And most of all, please do subscribe so this expression of free speech can reach the entire world and others will be able to comment as well. And as always, we ask you, join us on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to give us your live expression of your thoughts and to express your undeniable, inalienable right of free speech from anywhere in the world. We thank you, and we hope you have a great day.